So what's the best first message you can send someone, and how can you turn a messaging exchange into a date? I'm dating coach Hayley Quinn, and welcome to your Match live coaching session. In the world of online dating, of course, how we message people is really important because it's how you show people that you're out there and how you can build excitement with someone to meet you for a date. So during the session today, I'm going to be getting really practical and helping you with some simple tools that you can use to have more successful messaging exchanges. I'm sure we all know by now that good first messages should be personalized to the person we're writing them to, but I really understand that at the end of a really long day with everything else that's going on at the moment, that you just might not have the bandwidth to be your most creative self all the time. That's why in the first section of this live coaching session, I'm going to be giving you some really helpful templates that you can use to base your first messages on. So rather than having to strike inspiration every time, you're going to have a structure that you can start to use to think about when you want to message someone. After that, in our second section, I'm going to be giving you some pointers about how you can really keep the conversation moving in the right direction so it doesn't dry up or fizzle out. And again, that those message interactions that have started get their best chance to spark. Finally, I'm going to also be giving you some sort of checkpoints that I'd recommend you passing through before you ask for that all-important date. As ever, we'll be ending this session with a live Q&A, and I'm already taking some questions that you've sent in advance throughout the session already. However, if you haven't sent me in your question yet, there's still plenty of time. You'll see there's a chat box there on your screen. Please write in and share with me anything that you'd love me to answer. It's always like the best bit of the session, and it's really great for you to really use this session because it's all about you and getting your dating problems solved. In the chat box, you can also reply to other Match members and like their comments. So please join in the conversation, get involved. Throughout the session, there will also be in that same chat box area popping up a few surveys. Surveys are your opportunity to vote on some questions that I'm asking you about how you message people. So it's again a really interesting opportunity to see what everybody else is thinking and feeling out there. Finally, if you'd like to, if I say something you like, you can click the heart button to give me a like. So that's our sort of structure for today. But before I go any further, it's really important I put one big caveat out there, which is this. You could write the best message ever. It's like Shakespeare stand aside, your message was amazing. That still doesn't mean that someone's going to get back to you, because for a messaging interaction to be successful, we need both people really participating in that interaction. And I know it can be a bit disappointing when someone doesn't get back to your message. So I just want to start off really by reminding you that the reason for that may well not be that there's anything wrong with your message at all. It could just be that the other person is busy, is preoccupied, dating isn't a priority for them at this particular moment. So if you don't get a response, that really well-crafted message, try not to take it to heart. Remember that the people out there who are most similar to you, who are most engaged with dating, who really want to start something real, they are going to be replying to you. And hopefully using the structures I'm about to give you is going to make your life a lot easier when it comes to crafting these messages. So before we move on to looking at what some of those first messages are, let's just do a really quick recap of this section. So remember, being able to write good messages helps you to be successful at dating. Well, I hope that bit's obvious. If you don't send the message, you'll never know. So this means if you don't take your chance, you're never going to know if that person could be the right person for you. And remember, there's lots of reasons that are absolutely nothing to do with you why someone may choose not to reply. So before I go into my first section, I have actually got some questions that were sent in advance. And I would like to say to those of you who did send your questions in advance, there were some really brilliant ones in there. It was really actually quite tricky to choose the ones that I was going to answer during this live. So the first question I've got here is from Steve, who writes, I seem to send a lot of messages with little thought, and maybe that's why my response rate is poor. But messages I receive back are also not that well thought out! Exclamation point, Steve. Okay, Steve, so I'm going to encourage you here to be part of the change. Even if the messages that you get aren't always the most amazing messages in the world, I want you to really lean in here to taking control and writing messages, maybe not your 100%, but at least your 88%. So remember, I'm going to be giving you lots of tips on how to write good messages in the next section. But for now, I want you to focus on a couple of things. Remember, quality over quantity. So instead of sending a lot of cut and paste messages to people, it's going to be better for you to focus on what you're actually looking for. When you see that in someone's profile or how they're interacting with you, craft that into a first message. More details on that to come. And also with all your messages, just remember the 3 Ps. Keep it personal, positive, and playful. So personalize your messages, keep the tone of your messages positive, and be playful. And if being playful isn't something that comes naturally to some of you out there, don't worry. I've got some good tips on how you can do that. Now, my next message or question is quite a long one. It's from Kiara, but I chose to include it because I think she writes about something that so many people will be experiencing. She writes, "Dear Hayley, I do struggle texting. I really have to push myself to be creative and keep the momentum to sound fresh. I struggle because sometimes it feels overwhelming for me. It feels like being at work and having to reply to lots of emails based on different topics. Would you suggest only engaging to a certain number of conversations at a time? Also, I sometimes hesitate when it comes to answer the question, why are you still single? Any advice?" So I'm going to do the first part of that question. And I think if you are getting that, it's a bit like having another inbox feeling when you're replying to your messages. This is something we need to address because when it comes to dating, your personal motivation levels are really, really important. So I would say focus to start with on having a profile that's got lots of personality in it, lots of very individual things for people to respond to. And I'll give a few more tips on this later, but obviously write your profile, use Match Voice to leave voice notes on your profile, and then it's going to be easier for you to see who has personalized their messages to you, who's read and responded to your profile. And I would focus on having those conversations first rather than spreading yourself too thin and burning out. Now to the question, why are you still single? Now, I'm sure a few of you out there have had that question and possibly not liked it. So for all of you who are watching the match live tonight, can we just agree that the question, why are you still single, isn't the best question to ask in a messaging conversation? In fact, if we could ban it, that would be great. If you are the recipient of that question, I know it can sometimes feel a bit awkward to answer, but remember the person's intention when they're sending that isn't probably to make you feel awkward. They're probably just trying to create a conversation or show curiosity, or maybe they think you're really attractive and can't understand, why you are still single. So they phrased it in that way. I would keep your response, again, keep it positive, keep it light, and don't feel pressure that you have to sort of disclose your whole life story. You can just say something like, I'm optimistically waiting for the right person to come along. So keep it positive, keep it aloof, and don't take it to heart if somebody asks you that question. So the final question in this section comes from Malcolm, who asks, how do I get the attention of someone I'm really interested in with the first message? So quick caveat, Malcolm, I'm going to say you can't be that interested in someone until you've had a bit more interaction with them. So someone's profile can look perfect, but remember, what makes them perfect for you is how they interact with you. So until we see that they're responding to your messages, they're being consistent and they're making an effort too, it's good actually not to place too much pressure on yourself in that first message. That being said, in my next section, which is coming up, I am going to be giving you loads of really interesting templates and tools you can use to make it easier for you to structure an amazing first message to send to someone.